Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Talking Tactics podcast. My name's Daniel.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Carl Anker.
We do this podcast every Tuesday. Remember to follow us on the social medias. Twitter, Instagram are the main ones, I guess. If you're listening on Spotify, follow us over there. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, subscribe. It's free. Come on. Leave a 5-star review, and we will read it on the show. We got 2 reviews in the past week, both from the United States of America, according to this software I have. So we're going to read these out. Genuinely great podcast from Young Boozer. He says, have been listening to this podcast for about a year now, and it is seriously one of the pods that I look forward to the most each week. One of the reasons that I like to listen is because I am a white person from Midwestern United States, and I enjoy being able to listen to people of other backgrounds talk about how they see the game. So contrary to the popular saying, do not subscribe because it's free, subscribe because it really is a genuinely great podcast. So thank you. And the next one, great show, guys. I only started seriously watching and following soccer in 2016, and being a fairly new fan of the game, I find your conversations very insightful. Love the overall vibe and chemistry that you guys have. Been listening to a lot of other soccer podcasts, and have to say you guys keep it real with minimal to no BS, which is what I enjoy the most about the show. I did subscribe to the Patreon last week. Happy to contribute towards this initiative and look forward to more awesome content from y'all. From Sarith Shudhish. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, bro. But thank you, guys, for the review. Speaking of the Patreon, if you do want to help the show out monetarily, we have a Patreon page. We record 30 to 40 minutes of extra content. And for the people that wanted the FIFA career mode that we're going to do, League On won the poll. So I think the team we're going to roll with is Monaco. So there's going to be a Monaco career mode on the Patreon for you guys. And we'll start that Thursday or Friday, and that'll be a weekly thing on the Patreon. So if you're into FIFA, check us out over there. Carl, you got anything you want to say? Stuff that's coming out this week or things you're up to?
No, just general, subscribe to Athletic. Keep it rolling. I hope you guys are having fun with your decade recaps. Oh, well, I suppose we could do a decade recap as an episode, can't we? While we do respect international football and think we love a World Cup, have hope, has his horsemen, and thinks nothing else matters and thinks the World Cup is the pinnacle of the game. I love myself for Euros and think it's harder to win a European Championship than it is to win a World Cup. And we will love AFCON here. We do try and push the butt out during international breaks. And as such, this week's conversation will be...
Introduce it. It's your idea, bro.
I don't even know what the idea is.
Yeah, well, no, it's 2019 and, Carl kind of suggested that, people are doing their end of the decade lists and all that kind of stuff. Best albums of the 2010s, best movies of the 2010s. Well, why don't we just talk about football from 2010 to 2019? It's a good idea. It's just like what happened in the decade, our thoughts from 2010 up until now. There's still a month left, so maybe there's one Ballon d'Or winner we don't have, but they're basically all Messi and Ronaldo anyway. So, so we're just going to talk about football from 2010 up until now. So starting in 2010, I was 19 and 20. So my memory is going to be a bit sketchy from back then. But the main thing that pops out is a World Cup in Africa that people seem to hate, but I kind of liked.
I've always maintained the World Cup 2010 was utterly unique. A lot of people don't like the 2010 World Cup.
Sorry, I was trying to be like a vuvuzela over your point.
Because of that, and I think the really interesting thing about the 2010 World Cup was there was no great European narrative to it, really, until the end. So what you saw in the 2010 World Cup was the large, more or less, the wholesale defeat of some of the classic European superpowers. So France get knocked out in the group stages, as do Italy, who were the holders, get knocked out in the group stages. Germany were playing. They got to the semi-finals, but they were playing typically un-German football. England get knocked out around the 16. The Netherlands, a team that historically, as Uncle Paul has said on this podcast, the Netherlands have cursed one of the footballing gods and therefore are cursed to never win a World Cup, finally get into another World Cup final. Spain, who'd never truly done it on the international stage, get into a World Cup final. It was the end of traditional footballing hegemonies and the beginnings of new ones. So... everything that we thought we knew about 90s football more or less came to a crashing end in 2010. Also the sort of collapse of Brazil in a fairly rudimentary quarterfinal defeat to the Netherlands, and what you got was new football, new tactics, new ideas, new footballing nations at the top. Ghana getting to a quarterfinals, Uruguay, the beginning of the Uruguayan era of footballing dominance.
Mm-hmm.
The 2010 World Cup was interesting because it was a World Cup not in Asia or South America or Europe, and as such, the football was not of those sort of traditional World Cups. It was utterly unique, and he has a really strong flavor that some people don't like, because some people don't like spice, some people do love spice, and I love 2010 World Cup because I think the 2010 World Cup was the first World Cup I ever saw where I went, oh, that's a football tactic.
I liked it because it was in Africa. Like the vibe that I felt from like the South Africans and all the teams that were there. It was just like it was a fun vibe. Like if you kind of contrast it with maybe the World Cup that we just had, because I feel like Brazil kind of had some of those same elements, but the Russian World Cup, some of the stadiums were kind of empty and like it was just kind of vibeless. So you had to kind of make your own vibe at the house.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the 2010 World Cup and you turned it on. It was just like the vibe was already there. All you had to do was just kind of sit down and enjoy it if you wanted to. And that was fun. But as a Ghanaian, how can you look at that fondly?
It's the best Ghana's ever done in the World Cup, and it'll be the best Ghana will do for maybe a generation. I think the interesting thing for me about the 2010 World Cup was that was the first tournament where England got eliminated and I didn't cry immediately afterwards. Cool. All right, then. I'm not crying. I think maybe I've matured. Maybe I'm not going to be utterly ruined by football anymore. And then Ghana get knocked out in that circumstance, and I just start crying. I was just like, oh, man. So I finally figured out no matter what happens, I'm always going to cry at football. It's always going to find a way to get me and ruin my life. And yeah, in the same way that English football fans fondly remember Italia 90, I think Ghanaian football fans and football fans from parts of Africa will fondly remember the World Cup 2010.
Okay, so also in club football that year, we had Chelsea won the Premier League. I'll put a shout out there just because that was like Drogba's greatest season.
He was incredible that year.
But and I mean he did it while at the AFCON. So I think he scored 29 goals in a season where he was at AFCON. But that's neither here nor there. The most important part of 2010, Mourinho's inter-treble.
Half Hope is currently not here, and we've mentioned him, and we're waiting for Half Hope to appear because we've now mentioned Mourinho's greatest triumph. But yeah, I mean, Inter Milan won the treble to defeat Bayern Munich, who were looking like they were going to get a treble as well. This Inter Milan side was, I mean, I've always said it. How Wesley Sneijder didn't win the Ballon d'Or that year, I will never know, because he was truly the best football player on the planet. I think the best football players on the planet that year were Wesley Sneijder, then Frank Ribery, then Iniesta. For some strange reason in 2010, they put the Milan derby, like a very early Milan derby, on. It was August or September, but for some reason it was on BBC Three, so it was available for broadcast on UK television. They never showed another game of football, Italian football, on like that. And I'm thinking two things: one, Pato had phenomenal dribbling ability that I hadn't seen before, and two, Inter's going to win this at a cakewalk. They're going to win a Champions League at a cakewalk, because that Milan derby was Wesley Sneijder's first interaction with that first team. Apparently, he sort of like rocked up on the team, like a day before in training. I went, "Hi, I'm Wesley. How you doing? I'm going to be running things," and they were amazing. That was the apex of Mourinho's abilities, because that was what, again, every decade doesn't really start until maybe 2 or 3 years into the decade, and we figure out what's going on. But at that point in time, Mourinho's system of just, we're going to make sure we've got a very, very strong unit of 5, and then the attacking unit will take care of itself. To put Wesley Sneijder behind Diego Milito and Samuel Eto'o playing, and sometimes we played wide right, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. That Inter